You're listening to Catalyst Talks, conversations with change agents, outliers, superheroes, and truly conscious leaders modeling what it is to be an unstoppable force for good in this world. What lit these catalysts on fire to do their work, and what nuggets of wisdom can they share with a world literally on fire? This podcast is for you who cares deeply and seeks to catalyze the world. I'm your host, Stephanie Trager. I'm a consciousness catalyst and soul coach to superstar change agents in business, leadership, and life. In this podcast, I wear an eclectic mix of hats, including earthkeeper, healer, mindset coach, lawyer, business, sustainability, and impact strategist. My intention is holding space for higher purpose, peak wellness, and soul mastery so we can live in harmony with ourselves, each other, and nature. The whole idea of Catalyst Talks in these conversations is to awaken consciousness, unlock higher purpose, and learn what it really takes to catalyze change in that scale. Subscribe to our new podcast and help us grow. We're aiming to reach 1 million people at least in 2020. Let's wake up the world together. Hello and welcome back to Catalyst Talks podcast. And thank you for joining me on this 6th episode in this 6-part series of Unlocking Higher Purpose. This has been such a wonderful journey, the Unlocking Higher Purpose series. And I want to say thank you to all who've been along for this ride, doing the deeper work, asking the deeper questions, and really diving deep into these different parts. Today, we get to cover higher purpose. So far, we've gone through speaking our truth, identity and soul, peak wellness and purpose, soul mastery and purpose, deeper impact in business. And today, we're diving into higher purpose. And we're going to just tie all of these pieces together. What does speaking your truth have to do with higher purpose, identity and soul, peak wellness, purpose, soul mastery, and deeper impact in business? How does this all tie into your higher purpose and what higher purpose means to you? At the end of the day, at the end of the road, higher purpose really just means coming back to yourself, remembering who you really are. Remembering who we all really are and where we fit in this great ecosystem of life. We are not the center of the universe. We are not the center of planet Earth. We are not the most important species on planet Earth. And when we remember that, we are remembering who we really are. So what does that mean? And how do we take that information? How do we take that and bring it into our heart and expand into the next level of how we get to actualize on planet Earth with each other, in ourselves, so that we feel fulfilled and happy and self-actualized? Let's talk about accessing higher purpose in context of what we've already talked about today. I was really inspired to do this series because for a long time I've been very, very busy with other things in life and not really interviewing a lot of really interesting people here. And yet, this is my work. This is the deepest passion that I have. And so for me, the Unlocking Higher Purpose series was also a journey for myself to come back to myself. And sharing this content is how I come back to myself, because this is my purpose. My purpose is to share, and it is to translate and mediate between worlds. And sometimes we get trapped and locked in other things that we're doing. And all of these parts can speak to that. Sometimes we get trapped, and that's kind of the identity traps, and we forget who we really are, and we stop speaking our truth, and we're like busy doing other things, but we don't remember how important our truth is for this moment in time in order to shift things on the planet, shift things within our smaller circles and larger circles and within ourselves. Sometimes we get so busy, peak wellness becomes like later, not now. Well, this is all about higher purpose. Is the definition of higher purpose is now. The definition of soul mastery is now. It's connecting to yourself and your highest self now. Deeper impact in business. It's such a part of higher purpose. It's a part of remembering who we are, because what we've done is we've totally disconnected from who we are. And that's allowed us to cause harm to others. It's allowed us to unplug and disconnect from the impacts that we have on people and places because we can't see it. It's out of touch, out of sight, out of mind. And so deeper impact in business is so connected to higher purpose, which is now. And now, in this moment right now, if you were aware of your ripple effect on planet Earth, of all of the different ecosystems that you're impacting, and you saw it with extreme clarity and just lucidness, like a lucid view of really how your energy, your physical world, your emotional world, your mental world, and your energetic world are actually impacting everything around you, then it might cause you to think differently or act differently. And so higher purpose is this invitation to open up and to become more self-aware of our impact in the world, and not only in the world, but our impact on ourselves. I'm going to dive deep into a few really interesting portals where we can play with this information today. There's no real plan for this conversation. Like usually I'll script out what I'm going to say and think about it in advance. And the truth is, for higher purpose, I just feel like I want to share some things that want to come through in the moment. And it's not really me. It's actually you alchemizing what you need to hear today. That's what's going to come through. So stay tuned here. So when we talk about accessing higher purpose, again, everything I want to share today is contextualized in each of the other parts, and we're bringing it all together today. And the purpose of this episode is for you to step forward and say, what is next? How am I going to own or tap in and unlock my higher purpose? Or remember who I really am, and what does that really mean for you? It all comes down to our inner joy. Inner joy and fulfillment, and feeling like we're actualizing our gifts and talents and the purpose we have here on the planet. That's what we all really want. That's how we feel a sense of belonging, like we belong on earth. We belong with the people we're around. And we all really crave that. We crave love. We crave belonging. We crave to be seen. We crave to be acknowledged. We crave security. We crave comfort. And these are not like extra things. This is part of the human condition. These are the beautiful aspects of life. And so how do we take those needs and desires and cravings and actually connect them to our higher purpose? Tap in and unlock our own higher purpose. Well, here's what I'm going to share with you. Higher purpose is really just your way of seeing how you belong in this ecosystem of life. How you belong in it, how you can feed it, how you can help it thrive, and how reciprocally it can help you thrive, how it can feed you. That is the ultimate. If you think about what do you really want in life anyway, it's to expand and feel this reciprocal energy of give and receive, and that you have more than enough, and that you give all that you have to give, because part of our fulfillment is in a sense of giving. It's a sense of not just giving money or giving time, but giving the gifts that we have, our creative energy, that the reason why we know on some level we're here, it's to express this gift, this talent, this creativity, this brilliance, this energy, this intellect, or our strength, whatever it is that is ours to contribute. If we're not contributing with that, with our gifts, with our talents, our flame starts to dwindle and we might feel blocked. And then it becomes this kind of ever circulating reciprocal cycle of blocked, you're not able to give or receive. And so higher purpose is really breaking through any of those blocks of giving and receiving so that we can express fully and actualize our gifts and talents here in this lifetime and receive all of the abundance that we deserve and desire to feel and receive, including belonging, including abundance, including joy, including fulfillment in any way, shape, or form, and including peak wellness, feeling amazing in our bodies, because we look at this as a vessel, a sacred vessel that we get to travel through this time-space reality in. Why not treat this vessel with the ultimate care? Some people treat their cars better than they treat their bodies. Some people treat their animals, their pets, better than they treat their own emotions, better than they treat their own heart. And so how do we really love ourselves and love everyone and everything around us and tap into this life force of reciprocity? That's really what higher purpose is, when we're in that flow. What is your definition? Actually, I'm sure you have your own definition of higher purpose. And that's actually what the purpose of this whole series is about. It's giving you the tools and the language to really think about and create your own definition of what higher purpose means for you. My higher purpose is to awaken consciousness on this planet so that we can live in harmony with ourselves, each other, and nature. That's my higher purpose. How I actualize that might look a little bit or sound a little bit different, but that is my higher purpose. So at this point, tap in. What's your higher purpose? Well, if you're not clear yet, then remember, you can always come back to preparing your vessel. peak wellness and purpose. Like dive into that peak wellness, because when you clean out your physical body, you're cleaning out your spiritual body, you're cleaning out your emotional body. And it's the discipline and commitment and choice and decision to do that. It's kind of like cleaning your house out before you put in new furniture, or cleaning out the garage so that you can have space to put something in it and something more purposeful in it. And that's what we want to do. We want to clean out our vessel so that we can open up and receive the information from our higher self about our higher purpose. Then we want to receive the information about how to actualize it. And that's where we tap into our identity and soul. Are we living from a place of our true self, our higher self, our, who we really are? Or are we living in some identity that's not even who we really are? We've forgotten. We don't even know how to come back to ourselves anymore because we're so distracted with technology and vices and distractions. And so coming back to who we really are and choosing to dive into that journey of soul mastery. And part of that happens to be speaking our truth. Speaking your truth, again, it's kind of like, some people think that speaking your truth means you have to stand with a megaphone and announce and speak your truth. Well, we live in a time where that is sort of needed. However, speaking your truth is also about omission. It's about cutting things out of your life and saying, I'm not in alignment with that anymore. I'm going to choose to be with different people who really align and activate my highest self. I'm going to choose to say no to something because that's speaking my truth. I'm choosing myself instead. I'm choosing on purpose. Speaking our truth is also about making decisions intentionally. Because think about how often we go through life and we just kind of keep going along, partially for that sense of belonging. But when we're changing and we're expanding and we're transforming, speak our truth means to really choose and decide intentionally about who we want to be with, what we want to say, what kind of things we want to be talking about, how we want to spend our energy, and how we want to live our lives. And that can be expressed with how you eat. It can be expressed with choices you make. It could be expressed with how you invest your money. It can be expressed with how you teach and enlighten other people. And speaking your truth does not have to be like some radical claim of your power. It literally could just be having integrity with what you know is true. When I talk about unlocking higher purpose, I think of a program that I created several years ago, and it's called The Journey of Increase. And the Journey of Increase works with the principles of conscious influence. And conscious influence is the idea that we're always influencing our outcomes, either positively, negatively, or neutrally, but we're always influencing our outcomes. So higher purpose, again, begins with ourself. It begins with how we are knowing ourself, how we are tapping into our higher purpose, our higher self. And there are tools to do that. And for some people, it's meditation. And there's all different kinds of meditation and breath practices and other types of spiritual practices. And for a lot of the pieces here, like speaking your truth, identity and soul, peak wellness and purpose, soul mastery, deeper impact in business, these are all opportunities for applying the principles of conscious influence. And conscious influence begins with how we speak. It really does. And in this program, there's a whole entire section on vocabulary of increase. And the vocabulary of increase, it is a practice for how we use our words consciously and intentionally. So speaking our truth is also a function of choosing the words we're saying, choosing the words we use on purpose. Higher purpose for me is also, and when I say what I define as higher purpose, this is really my thought around this. There's many ways you can perceive and talk about higher purpose, but the way I look at higher purpose is our own journey to raising our consciousness and elevating the frequency and vibration within us and around us. And so as we raise our own vibration, we choose the words we speak and recognize every word carries a vibration. Every action carries a vibration. Every choice and decision we make carries a vibration. How we choose to live and walk on this planet carries a vibration and a frequency. I have a little dog, and when he's not feeling well, I choose to tune into You go on YouTube, and thank you, YouTube, for this opportunity. I go onto YouTube and I find some beautiful frequency music, like at the 432 hertz frequencies or 532. There's all these different frequency music. I have friends who work with different machines and frequency machines, but often it's this music that has such a calming effect that it neutralizes other energies in the space and it creates beautiful healing. And I use this for myself as well. What does this have to do with higher purpose? Higher purpose is just calling for us all to continue to raise our frequency so that whatever we're doing, whether it's in our business, whether we are, running a company, running an organization, whether we're helping other people improve their lives, especially in the world today of transformation and the rampant, beautiful, exponential growth of the personal development industry, especially in organizations and in companies, we really want to raise the vibration and not to continue to bring kind of a low vibe to the healing and transformation that we're doing. Because what happens is everything is superficial. We're talking about racial equity and justice, and we're talking about sustainability and regenerative economies. When we talk about these things, these principles, these new ways to be, if we're bringing an old vibration, like just a regular frequency, like we're going to go and have lunch and eat the same crap and use plastic utensils, but we're having this workshop on higher purpose somewhere. Where's the integrity in that? Where's the raising the frequency in that? No judgment here, just saying, raising our frequency, higher purpose is a calling to elevate the conversation in every way, to step out of the superficial, to go deep and do the deep healing work required of all of us so that we can tap into higher purpose. One of the things I'm really excited about when we talk about higher purpose is around knowing yourself and being able to kind of at will step into a deeper place of understanding from yourself. Like, where is this coming from? Why do I feel this way? What do I need? And then also knowing how to step out of yourself and kind of observe yourself as an observer. What's really going on? What does she really need or he really need? What needs to be said here? And then being also able to step into the shoes of other. And when you're stepping into the shoes of somebody else who is perhaps challenging you or challenging your truth, you can actually see where they're coming from. And when I say see where they're coming from is you can see people's wounds, you can see people's belief system, you can see why they're saying certain things, and you no longer have to judge them or label them as something else. You can see where people are on the consciousness spectrum and just like have compassion from that place and not let this something trigger us, because we know that it's coming from a wound. And really all that needs to happen is the healing of the wounds. That's the path to unlocking higher purpose. It's healing our own wounds, recognizing the wounds in others, recognizing the collective wounding that we are all sort of still contributing to every single day when we make certain purchases, and recognizing that the global wounding, it's embedded in systems like slavery, it's embedded in systems like the extractive industries, and embedded in systems of governance where there's no accountability and no transparency, and there's human rights abuse and injustice for environmental defenders. There's so much that is in our power. And until we start to really believe in the power of a new paradigm and that we can create a new paradigm, we're going to continue to contribute to an old extractive paradigm that it's just something we're colluding with, because everything is a story. So feels like I'm going on a little bit of tangent here, but I'm dropping seeds because what I want to share is higher purpose is a story. That's what higher purpose is. We get to tell the story of our life every single day that we talk about it. Every time we think about our story or our condition, we're telling ourselves a story. And so in the shamanic realms, we say we want to dream our world into being. And I've had many experiences where I've been in places that were then reflected back to me as having been dreamed into being, where I arrived once in the Amazon, where I was doing some work around oil, was doing research around oil extraction in the Yasuni Reserve. And I remember being there and hearing the story. I'm a Quechua shaman there. He was also a plant. I mean, we would walk in the jungle. He knew every single plant, every tree, everything. Gabriel is his name. And he was telling the story of how years ago, years and like decades before, there was the person in his village who could see. They called them, they had a certain name. the person who could see. And that this person came and had an experience with a plant medicine and then had this dream that these people were coming with white hats, and they were coming and coming, and life would never be the same. And one of them had a machete, and they kept coming and they kept coming, and they were in white clothes. And lo and behold, a year after that vision, this was before any white person or non-indigenous person had stepped into the jungle outside of Ecuador. And it was the oil company Texaco had come and started to do exploration there. And they never stopped. And that was the idea of the vision of them coming and coming. And they were white people. And so they were all wearing white in his vision. And not having had the context to have that vision, not having read it in a book or seen it in a movie, this was a knowing. It was a knowing. And this kind of knowing exists for millennia, like being able to tap in and know what's coming and have that foresight. And where we are right now is that we are in a world where we know what's coming. We know that environmental destruction and climate change is real, and we cannot continue to live the way we're living. It could feel overwhelming, like, well, what do I do? Well, part of the recipe is just raising the vibration, because when we raise our vibration and we raise our frequency and we become higher beings and we remember who we are, and we are, treat our body as the sacred temple and vessel it is, so that it can receive information like that knowing. And I'm going to go there in a second, a little deeper. But when we get into that place, we can no longer cause harm. We can no longer go and take people's land and just decide to destroy it. We can no longer do that. I'm right now working on we keep bringing this up. There was an episode I did a few months ago with Stephen Donziger. He's an environmental justice attorney, a human rights lawyer, brilliant guy who for years and years and decades was defending the environmental destruction by Chevron Texaco, same company, same place, actually. So is no coincidence that I started working with Stephen on his case just a few months ago. And only a few years ago, I was in the place where he was defending. That was kind of subject to the case that he was working on, where he and his team was able to secure a $9.5 billion judgment against Chevron for contaminating the Amazon and destroying communities, rural and indigenous communities. And because of this huge win, which was precedent setting, that an extractive company would have to pay $9.5 billion to remediate and clean up this mess and admit their wrongs, it would have opened a floodgate. And so Chevron has gone and is going to the depths. And this is a really interesting case of what's unfolding. And unfortunately, it's impacting the life of a human rights lawyer who's under house arrest for 14 months with a freaking thing on his ankle. And it's just a shit show watching the courts and the corruption, the apparent judicial corruption in the Second Circuit in the United States federal court. But watching all of this unfold from kind of a zoomed out lens, I like to say, let's just zoom out and look at this from a different lens, is to see that this is what Chevron is doing, and their lawyers and the courts is so low vibration. It's so low vibration that if people were really not living in fear, not living in scarcity, not living in just this kind of holding on to the last vestiges of power and corruption, then we would be living in a completely different world. I mean, once we would really let go of all of that fear, scarcity, and need to control resources and the economy, basically, and money, we would start to see that higher purpose is really about raising the vibration, because once we tap into a higher frequency, so much more possibility is available, so many more solutions, so much more collaboration, and the proliferation of good, because the high vibration is good, the proliferation of good. And the ingredients to get there for all of us, where do we want to start within our own selves? The ingredient to get there is to remember that we are wild. We are spirit. We're connected to the cosmos. We are nature. We are part of this epic ecosystem of life. We are souls. We are spirit. We're material. We're amazing. If you think about the systems in your body and what they do every day without you having to do anything, every minute, every second, can we give thanks for this amazing opportunity to know what it is to be in a body and engage with this world? And higher purpose is to step away from identity and the story, the narrative of what the world is. This whole Chevron story and the kind of nightmare that Stephen is living out in his experience, Stephen the attorney, is a story. And it's part of a low vibration story that we are all colluding with and giving power to on some level, whether it's a belief that we need oil, whether it's a belief that companies have power, whether it's a belief that we need to follow the rules that they made. Because when we follow the rules of this story in a system that is designed for certain people and companies and entities to stay in power, we're colluding with the story. And so does it mean to just cut out and get off grid and not pay taxes and, go do your own thing? Maybe it does. Maybe higher purpose does mean that. It means really creating our own reality and doing what you know to be true for you. That's what speaking your truth is about. It's what peak wellness and identity and soul mastery and deeper impact in business. That's what these things are all about. It's about stepping away from a narrative and a story we're all colluding with, which has us all functioning in our comfortable lives and really challenging and saying, well, what does it mean to have the vision of a different world? What is the vision of a different world? Are we even having that vision together? Because it's going to take visioning this together in order for it to actualize and manifest. I like to step back and say, unlocking higher purpose begins with understanding your soul's agenda for you in this lifetime. And higher purpose for you, what does that mean? What is your higher purpose? What is your soul doing here right now? What stories is it working out? What traumas or pain or difficulties or challenges is it working out here so that you can expand and have a quantum shift into a higher way of being, a quantum healing, so that all that old stuff can just poof, disappear quickly. And for all of us, that's really the purpose. Higher purpose is about doing that quantum healing and releasing and letting go of old stories and creating a new story. So higher purpose is, what is your new story? Awakening consciousness on the planet so we can live in harmony with ourselves, each other, and nature. That is my story. And from there, I can tell it all different ways. I can tell you all of the hard stuff and shit I had to go through and dark nights of the soul and soul freaking this and that and challenges up the wazoo. Or I can tell you a different way. I can tell you the story of my soul that came here as this wild being and knew as a kid that I can communicate and talk to trees and hear them talk to me. And I could see things that other people couldn't see for some reason. And I knew there was this magical, subliminal world everywhere, all this other stuff going on that no one was talking about and that I could see and hear. And I wasn't crazy. And I knew that I had a different path and that I went on this journey to seek and to find myself and to find my truth. And in that journey, I learned so much about how to stay true to myself and how to really walk the talk. And when I wasn't walking the talk, to take responsibility and to continue to do that over and over. I continue to do that still until I can actualize my highest potential on this planet and understand that my soul's agenda has a much bigger plan and that blah, 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 blah. I can keep going. But that's a story that I just started telling you. And I can tell you all of the things in the material world that, how it expresses and what it looks like, and my sense and feeling of belonging and love, and to feel accomplished and to feel accepted and to feel acknowledged and fulfilled, to be loved and to love. These are all stories. And so this higher purpose opportunity here right now, I want to just give you a little framework to step away from this episode with, and from the whole Unlocking Higher Purpose series. If you can continue to come back to yourself, remember that unlocking higher purpose is a journey of coming back to ourselves. And whatever it is we need to do to come back to ourselves, sometimes it means stepping away from our life, going away. In November of 2021, you can join me and Danielle Cooperman in Ecuador. We are taking a small group of people into the Amazon and Andes on a journey called Tapping into Higher Purpose with the people of the Amazon and Andes. And this is in November 2021. We had to change it due to the times we're living in. So that is an opportunity. Again, Danielle was one of my first guests on Catalyst Talks podcast when we were planning the August trip of 2020. And so you can listen to that conversation as well. But this is really an invitation, because when we step outside of ourselves and we come home to who we are and we step into a whole different paradigm of living, so we get to go and we stay with communities, indigenous communities in the Andes, and then again in the Amazon. And there's some beautiful parts of this journey. So there's a lot more than that. But in this opportunity, we get to step outside of our reality and see how other people live in a way that is so connected to the cosmos and the earth, that we remember that this is part of who we are too. We're all indigenous to this earth. We're all indigenous people. We are all native to planet Earth. And when we remember that, we get to remember a little bit more who we are. We are all connected to the cosmos. Why? We have a giant orb in the sky that can move the ocean, the tides, that can cause fields to be fertile or infertile, that causes women to be fertile or infertile, that has us on a cycle every month. This giant orb in the sky is called the moon. And if we think we're not connected to the cosmos, then let's check ourselves again. Everything is connected to everything. We are a speck of dust in the sky. And so to think that we're not affected by other planets and the cosmos and information that's coming from ancient forests that we're leveling and destroying, where the information on this planet is contained in the mycelium networks underground, in the plants that connect to the cosmos also. There's so much information in a forest, in an ancient forest, and that we don't even understand yet still. We don't even understand. And if we listen to the ancient teachers, the indigenous people who are still connected to that source of intelligence, we might learn. And so that is the invitation to unlocking higher purpose. And that's what we're doing in the Amazon and the Andes, is we're going to remember who we really are with people who never forgot, and us buying into the story of capitalism. Listen, I'm not knocking capitalism. I'm just saying we bought into a story of the way the world is. And it was largely formed by colonizing minds, by colonizing people. And when we colonize people, what we're doing is we're helping them forget who they are. We're helping them forget who they are so that they can be part of what we want them to be. That's what colonizing is. We're going to make this a British colony, even though it's an African country, and then we're going to make them think they're British, and forget who they really are so that we can control them. That's colonizing. And when we think about how higher purpose is really the decolonization of our minds, it's the decolonization of our souls, it's the decolonization of food. To think about the fact that it's actually hard I'm the odd person who, what do you eat? Oh, you don't eat anything. It's like, well, the fact that we've gotten to a place where I could barely eat if I leave my house, because there's just not the kinds of food that I would consider acceptable available, and that mainstream, most people aren't really looking for that. They're just kind of eating what's available and what's there, is an abomination. That to be healthy is hard. That's an abomination. That's a forgetting who we are. That's a colonization of our sovereign being, of our bodies. To decolonize our minds, to decolonize our health, means to remember that we're not going to the doctor to be healed all the time. We're not going to the doctor to be told what's wrong with us. Yes to diagnostics, and yes to healing and health and wellness and medical interventions. And yes to the plants, yes to the herbs, yes to starting by asking our bodies what they need, yes to going for the energy healing, the emotional healing, the deep soul healing, the energy clearing, the food adjusting, the detoxing. There's so many technologies that are simply available to all of us so that we can take our own sovereign beings and our health and our vessels into our own hands. This is higher purpose. Higher purpose is looking at our lives in every area and really fine-tuning and taking responsibility for where we've given it away, where we're creating a story that we don't want, where we can create a different story instead, where we can take sovereignty over our lives and claim our own reality and really start to dream a new world into being, not only for ourselves, but collectively. And yes, it's challenging because the mainstream, and when I say mainstream, it's like all the people around us, there is a minority and it's growing. And the goal is to make this a majority. And that's the purpose of the Unlocking Higher Purpose series, is to make us a majority of people who really are going to commit to this change, to take a stand and be in integrity with what we believe is true and right, and to shine a light for other people, and to not go with the flow just because it's easy, but to teach and to share and to find that conscious vocabulary as a way to teach, as a way to share the information without shoving it down people's throats. I did that for years. People don't like that. Then you're just a crazy person. But when you start to just live it and be the example and walk your talk and speak your truth, people see it and learn. And people are more interested in changing and shifting with you. And this is all like now in the world. This is in the intellectual conversation of changing these paradigms. We're talking about systems change and regenerative economies and different ways to finance these different new solutions to big challenges. And in these conversations, it's so important to recognize that mainstream is becoming more part of the conversation. Mainstream is becoming more part of the conversation around transforming the economy and transforming finance. I just read an incredible report by law students. It was like Law Students for Accountability. And in this report, it was all about the law firms. It was like a rating scorecard of law firms that are representing basically the extractive industries, the industries that are actually doing harm, and not only doing harm, but again, like making it up. When you have power and money, you can make up the system. And that's how we got where we are. It was a made up system, and we're all playing into that. And so this is an idea of transcending that idea of power and money, which we do need in order to change the system, actually. But it's the idea of creating a different paradigm where those aren't the only two ingredients in order to change the paradigm, in order to make it up. And when I say make it up, it's a story, the story of how things work and how things work for big companies that are extracting and causing harm in the world. And slavery, that's where it all started, right? That's where all the system that we live in today is built on that. And what we want to do is create a system that's built on magic and spirit and soul and reciprocity and sacred reciprocity and harmony and living in right relationship with each other and ourselves and nature. And to do that, we have to start by remembering how powerful we are and staying true to ourselves and speaking our truth and really understanding our soul versus being trapped in an identity, because these all play into each other, right? The identity piece, if you're stuck in an identity thing, you're not necessarily speaking your truth, because we have like old ideas of what our identity is and what people expect from us. And we don't want to rock the boat and be the tallest poppy, or we don't want to lose that sense of belonging, which is part of what we have to stay in an identity for in order to belong. And so how do we speak our truth, tap into that part of our soul and achieve peak wellness and stay true to who we really are, just stay true to what we believe around our bodies and how we eat, and not just go along with it because it's crazy situation. The crazy world we live in doesn't provide for peak wellness. And so you're the strange person who's like, no, I don't eat that. No, I don't eat that. We don't want to be the annoying person, right? We want to just go along and say, yes, sure, I'll eat that. So I always come back to the eating thing because this has been my journey. It's just something I am such a stand for, is to really stay true to what your body wants to have to be fueled, to feel amazing, whether it's to taste good or to just feel amazing, but to just listen to your body and to be intentional about your choices and decisions. This can go on and on and on, as you can see. Tapping into our higher purpose just means coming back to who we really are and remembering that as we continue this process of coming back to who we are, we'll get to know ourselves even more, even more, even more. And those higher parts of ourselves that are really here to know, to listen, like the healer who knew that the people were coming into the Amazon. The oil was coming into the Amazon the year before it came. We can know like that. We can tune in and really, really know and trust and listen. And part of doing that is to come back to plant medicine. Plant medicine is our teacher. Plants are fueled not only with sun and chlorophyll, but they are fueled with intelligence, plant earth intelligence, which is what we need more to infuse into our bodies, the herbs, the powerful foods that come from the earth, from healthy soils, if we can find, that are nurtured with love and not with chemicals, not with chemicals. When we can infuse our body with this kind of plant medicine and the sacred plant medicine that has wisdom teachings for us, we remember who we really are, because we are nature. We are nature. So come back to the plants, come back to earth, come back to nature, and remember that it will be the path that helps us tap into higher purpose. Thank you for being here with me. So one more thing I want to share here. As we step in and we really choose to empower ourselves and claim our higher purpose, and then unearth what that looks like in our day-to-day world, in our actualizing, in our business, in how we do business, in how we do relationships, and how we do food, and how we do sovereignty in our health and our wellness, and how we speak our truth. When we come back to higher purpose and who we really are, remembering who we really are, it's a process of connecting to that higher consciousness, that voice that lives within you, that lives above you, that lives around you, and connecting to your soul, asking your soul, and remembering that sometimes looking in nature is a reciprocal process. In other words, we want to find an answer to something. It's a deep soul gnawing question we have, or something we're processing or working on. When we go into nature and we just sit and we look and we ask, like even in our minds, we ask ourselves to have clarity or to have an answer come to us. Nature often provides that answer. I was recently in the woods with a friend, and we were sitting by these giant stones and these big boulders. And I remember just looking at the boulders and asking some questions. And in the boulders were the answers, the pictures, the visions, it all showed up for me in these giant boulders. Clarity, clarity, clarity. And it was merely the process of sitting and asking and trusting and listening and being in that vortex of energy where there's reciprocity, and it's everywhere in nature. And that's higher purpose. That's remembering who we really are, accessing our magic powers of discernment and listening and hearing and knowing and trusting ourselves to know that this is happening. Like when you experience something like, for me, that's normal. That's just my day to day. But if it's new for you, it's a function of really just trusting that it's that easy. It's right there. Everything is right there for us. We've just been taught to shut it off, to shut that portal of knowing off. And so right now, unlocking higher purpose is an invitation to open up the portal of your own knowing and trust yourself and love yourself. And remember, you are wild. You are spirit. Now, before I close today, I want to share a little bit about a program that I'm relaunching, and it's called the Evolve Program. And this is a beautiful journey. There'll be a mastermind happening in 2021, which will be a small group of people who want to do this journey together. And the Evolve Program goes through 4 pillars. We work with peak wellness, higher purpose, soul mastery, and deeper impact. And we unpacked a little bit about what those involve, what those are in this Unlocking Higher Purpose series. And so the Evolve Program is a personal one-on-one journey that we get to go on together. And it is an exquisite amount of support. If you are interested in learning about what this is and how it might help you, then please reach out. My contact information is all in the show notes. You can go to my website at stephanietrager.com. If you're interested in learning about the journey in November 2021 with me and Danielle Cooperman in the Ecuador and the Amazon and the Andes, tapping into higher purpose with the people of the Amazon and Andes, then definitely reach out the same way as go to my website. You can see the journey. It's on the website as well. And it's stephanietrager.com. Just search for journeys and you'll see more information. It's all there. It'd be a great honor to know that this is landing for you in any way, shape, or form. So please do reach out and let me know how this Unlocking Higher Purpose series was for you. And if you haven't received the journaling questions, we have put together a workbook for you. So if you sign up for the Unlocking Higher Purpose series at stephanietrager.com, you will receive a workbook which will help you deepen this journey, deep questions to dive into and journal and come to some clarity for yourself around your own higher purpose and what all of these parts mean for you. So thank you for being here. And I'm so excited. This is just the beginning for so much more to come. And I'm grateful you're on this journey with me. If you have any questions, reach out, stephanietrager.com, and we look forward to serving you. So be well, and remember to come home to who you really are. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Catalyst Talks. Stay tuned for what's up next, and please subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. You'll find those links at catalysttalks.com. Join us. We continue this conversation on social media, and if you'd like to reach out to me privately, you can send me a message at stephanietrager.com. Your attention here means the world to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you.